It
There
was
you go.
definitely sort of boring adult stuff. He was legitimately glad he went and interested, and he filled out the survey this morning before school.
That's good.
Which also means, like, that's also like the actual evidence of, no, he was engaged and interested and happy he went.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, I was
Now,
glad.
he's in what, seventh grade or eighth?
Seventh grade. He's 12 years old.
That's great.
Amazing.
Yeah, and you could tell him
Really good though.
he did awesome just to be there. That's better than every other kid in town.
No, I just keep telling you, that if you want to live in a nice place, you have to do your part.
You have to work on it.
You know,
Absolutely.
Places don't happen by accident.
Comes Brandy.
Rob, do you have agendas and minutes?
You betcha.
Hand out.
You betcha.
That would be great.
How did the Zoom
It
portion?
went, I thought it went very, very well. Maybe 16, 18 people, I'm not
Oh,
sure.
similar in size to the first Saturday, the first one on Saturday.
Yeah, kind of. We did 4 breakout rooms. I was put in
Yeah.
with Sealy,
Just
2 members of the public,
Too much stuff.
and a 6-year-old.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's cute.
So
Yourself.
Holly West.
Yeah.
Oh, she was a little blonde girl.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So,
a cutie.
Yeah. I got 2
The-
weeks like you probably.
It just-
Friday. Yeah.
wasn't enough to coalesce.
Yeah, a couple weeks before.
And I
Yeah.
didn't really know
Yeah,
how many,
I run into that
if the
too.
other groups had had
The budget
similar
committee.
experiences or not.
It's added on.
But when we went
And then
back
CIP as well?
and started
No,
talking,
and
the
then,
discussion was really,
It's,
really good.
it's thrown in there.
So before we
Yeah.
did our break, I suggested to Lindsay that we stay in
Yeah,
one
fortunately,
group.
that doesn't, I do. okay
And
with
that's
that.
what she did. And we had some very, very good discussion.
You know, so I
Um,
got the other, I use it as an opportunity to get up early.
Kind of a little bit,
Yeah, exactly.
It's not quite so
different
painful.
Right.
from the Saturday groups.
Yeah.
We got off on a tangent of the TIF district.
Yeah.
And people were bitching about the TIF district and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, we didn't seem to have that much on Saturday in terms of getting on track. We were able to keep it focused. pretty much the whole day.
Nice, yeah.
I think maybe some of that has to do with in-person. But I'm sure some of it also might be just the personalities
Sure.
involved.
My, I think my only neighbor on my road, guy by the name of Edmund Jones, was there.
Yeah, he was there.
And he wrote me a nice note, which I sent to you, with thanking me and thanking everybody involved, and had a bunch of ideas. And he was really, it was a really good email. So I sent it to you and Lindsay.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Um,
Had some good ideas. Echoes everything that we've been talking about.
I'm sure when I check my email next, it will be there.
Yep.
It seems to be up and running.
Good.
Good.
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Does he have extra copies? Yes. My printer doesn't work. I mean, it works. but it doesn't print. We run out of ink too.
Hey, Kurt. Hello.
Any other people trying to join in? Whitney, heard any ding ding? Okay. I know Ashley said she was gonna come this way.
in Zoom.
She's gonna come through Zoom. Yeah. She told me she was.
Okay.
Of course, it's still a couple minutes. Did you see that Conservation Commission is looking for a minutes taker? Did you see that?
I did not.
I don't know if you're looking for more. Probably
Yeah, I'll
tapping
have to
out to you. I don't know. Yeah,
It's probably, I'll have to dig up and see what they're looking for.
I think they posted something on listserv.
Okay.
Good Halloween. Kids love that.
Oh, I have to, so, yeah.
Remember when my daughter was little, that was her favorite holiday,
Yeah.
bigger than Christmas, bigger than Thanksgiving.
Well, even like my 5-year-old got tired and kind of ready, and my 3-year-old was like, no, we have to keep going. We're
Just
like,
push forward.
"No."
You have a copy of the minute,
I do.
is that there?
Yeah, I got 3 documents for you.
I got the other two.
Okay. Well, it's 6 o'clock and Lindsay's supposed to be lead chair tonight. Is that her coming in? No. So I will call the meeting to order. And when Lindsay comes in, I will have her carry on. So this is the Enfield Master Plan Task Force, November 8th, 2021. Members present from my left. Maynard,
Maynard is here.
David Pratt. Denise
Really tough here.
Russell,
Frederick,
Bridget,
Bridget LeBrie.
and on Zoom, we have Dan Appel
Yes, we do.
and Ashley Wood.
Hello.
Joining us also on Zoom are Brandy Saxton, our planning consultant. And
evening.
also present in the room are Rob Taylor, land use and zoning and economic development administrator, Whitney Banker, our recording secretary, and esteemed guest, Kurt Goddard. So, first order of business, unless anybody has any agenda issues, will be review and approval of the minutes of October 25. Does anybody need a little bit of time to look at them? Kurt, Rob has a copy if you don't. Okay.
I have a question after the minutes, but related to the minutes, but nothing wrong with that.
Well, if there are minutes related, why don't you ask the question?
I was just curious if we had most of the town officials, selectmen and budget folks and planning, did most of those people attend one of the sessions?
We had all 3 select board members, one at each session.
Excellent.
As to the others,
Smattering.
maybe somebody else would be able to answer better.
We had some zoning board members. Seeley was there, Madeline Johnson was there. Any other?
We had,
Over the weekend.
Yeah,
yeah. Dr. Tice was there, so we had.
Conservation.
Yeah, Sherry
Conservation
was
there.
we had some budget
Sherry
committee
was
people.
there.
Yeah.
Shirley Green was there.
Yep. Mascoma Lake Park and Budget Committee.
Oh, yeah.
Not bad.
From EDA was there.
That's right. I would say we had a smattering. It wasn't huge representation, but
But I am glad that the select board members came and listened and participated.
yes,
Very
that was
important.
great.
So back to the minutes. Any questions, changes, comments? Any motion to accept as written?
So moved.
Who's going to second it?
Uh-huh.
Maynard seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, minutes are accepted. Co-chair report. I think the only thing that I really want to talk about is the lawn signs that are scattered around town. Some of you may know that there was a complaint filed that we are violating our own sign ordinance. And it was the opinion of the town manager as well as Rob and myself that the town is not in fact violating its own ordinance. For two reasons. One is that the master planning is an ongoing event. Number two, the town is not obligated to follow its own zoning ordinance. So
Might be my favorite.
that having been said, it is time to take them down before they freeze into the ground. You all know where you put yours, and if they're still there, please collect them. I'm sure we'll be putting them out again at some point during the winter. You know, there might be some events that we're going to have focus groups. Certainly, when we get our draft done, I'm going to want to put the signs out on snowbanks or whatever. So go around and collect the ones that you put out. If you gave them to friends and neighbors, please ask them to take them in. You can store them at your own houses, or if that's not convenient, there's a big storage room upstairs, and I think Rob would be more than happy to put them up there. So I think we have two real big discussion items for tonight. One is the recap or debrief of the weekend's visioning sessions. And I thought the best way to handle it would be to go around the table and on Zoom and let people express their reactions, their positives, the negatives, what we could have done better, what you think the public took away from it, and what sort of new ideas might have come as a result of that. So Maynard, do you mind starting?
I don't. I attended the Saturday morning and the Sunday Zoom session. I thought the Saturday morning session went really much better than I thought it would. We had 20+ people other than those of us facilitating. I thought the breakout groups worked well. I thought people were active and involved. And I also thought we had quite a diverse group. People who had been in town a long time and some new people in town. So I thought Saturday went really good. The Sunday Zoom session I thought was a little funky. I thought it was harder to work in the breakout rooms. I want to apologize also because I jumped in and stepped on Bridget's toes while she was talking about the TIP thing and probably made it more confusing than it already is. It did generate quite a bit of discussion.
Yeah.
I wish I had handled that better. I'm sorry.
I enjoy it.
Okay, what's your one big takeaway? What did you learn?
People are more interested than I thought.
Okay, that's good.
I really was impressed at the interest and activity of the people that were there.
Good. I attended all three. I thought, you know, similar to what Maynard said, that the Saturday, you know, morning session was the very first one. And it came off a lot better than I had expected, not having any really great expectations. I think people were engaged. And I think that we had a broad representation of people from the community with a broad representation of ideas. The Saturday afternoon session was a little bit smaller in terms of attendance. My partner, who has absolutely nothing to do with town business or anything, I convinced her to partake in it, and she said it was very interesting. She was engaged. She was expecting to be lectured at, and was pleasantly surprised in that she had an opportunity to voice her opinion. I thought that the people in attendance were pretty darn respectful of other people's views, even if they were vastly different. And I thought it was a good civil discourse. The Zoom on Sunday afternoon, evening, as Maynard said, it was a little clunky because it's Zoom. The breakout room that I led was a little bit awkward. We had two members of the public, well, 2.5, or two and a 6-year-old, who was, not a great contributor, at least not verbally. I had a little bit of help from Mom, and Seeley and myself. So that was a little bit awkward, but we did get some ideas out. The discussion by the entire group afterwards, I thought was very good, very lively. And then we stayed in one group for the second activity, which, as I think has already been said, kind of got off on some weird tangents. We had some very strong personalities that were in the room, and they led the divergence, I would say. And that workshop actually ran about 25 or 30 minutes beyond the scheduled time, which I suppose is indicative of a good discussion, but you could also say, well, that's because people got off on tangents. So my big takeaway is that people are willing to engage in civil discourse without fighting with each other. I think we did a good job of planning some exercises, which maybe people weren't expecting. And I think we should do more of the same as we move forward to get more public input, perhaps, a focus group format or something like that, as we go into individual chapters. And I'm sure Brandy will have a lot more to say on that. Lindsay, do you want to give your impression or pass it on to Susan?
I'll pass it.
Okay. And I just passed the chair baton to you,
Okay.
if you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was impressed by the amount of people on Saturday and also their input. Well attended, good ideas. Good focus on different things. The afternoon I did not, I would plan to, but I couldn't sleep the night before. So, but I went on Sunday and began, somehow it just comes out across that everybody was really interested in, I think, the natural resources in the town. And I was impressed with how much people were saying about them. district. Some people's questions that I couldn't answer, but I just think overall, and I think Lindsay did a great job. I mean, she did a lot of work. And held it together the whole time, nothing rattled.
I
So,
got pretty close yesterday. Got a little close last night. At modern.
so anyway, I think it's great, and I think we should do more of that kind of thing like David said. It's good.
No, so I attended both sessions on Saturday, thought it went very well. And I guess the one newcomer, I guess one thing that was nice, I thought the length was pretty much perfect, because not only were people engaged the whole time, but they left with energy, still thinking about more stuff.
Got
Look.
emails to prove it.
No, but that's good. We
Yeah.
don't want people to be worn down and exhausted when they leave. We want them to leave events being like, oh yeah, let's keep thinking about this. And I think that happened, which was good to see.
I attended the Saturday morning. I was very surprised at people's candor and the ideas. I was really impressed. And quite honestly, every time I go to one of these things, I've learned so much from other people. It's just amazing. The things that you hear that you thought you knew the town, you end up didn't knowing it very well. Even though Saturday was well attended, I was a little disappointed overall that we didn't have more people, because we really did, I thought, a good job of getting the word out. And I would have liked to have seen more people, but you know, people are busy, and you know, you're gonna deal with that all the time. So other focus groups like David and Celia mentioned are probably a good idea moving forward.
I attended the Saturday afternoon and the Sunday events, and I think the same thing. I think it's nice. So I agree with you, Brad. I think we promoted it well, but I think a lot of people are still hesitant and not understanding. And so I think leaving people with a lot of energy kind of helps, because they'll spread the word and they'll talk about it. I think seeing things, right, they're gonna wanna see their ideas on paper, that we were listening to them, and we were not just talking and saying we were listening without doing anything around that. Yeah, I thought it was great actually to see, you know, Eric, you had your son with you, and then there were two little kiddos Sunday, which, you know, and talking to one of the moms, I mean, that's how they grew up, was going to town meetings with their parents, and they were going, and I think even though their ideas might be a little more outside the box than where we were going, but their ideas. Well, I think it would be great, actually, but yeah.
Splash pad.
The splash pad is also not a terrible idea. It's, you know, when we talk about the 25 years out, they'll be able to be more active in the community at that point in time, so they can work on that. But I thought it was kind of great to see that energy too. It just added a little something different. So, and yes, we went off on a little tangent on the TIF, but I think we got everybody all settled down a little bit.
There was a lot more discussion about that than I thought there would be, and it's still a very confusing time.
I think, so we had one member, we had Holly was there, and of course Kate was there, who both have understandings of the TIF district, and Holly was on the committee. So we went a little off tangent, but
And we were just trying to use it as a geographical reference,
Yeah.
not really dive into tip, but like just as a
Down
geographical
the rabbit
reference.
hole.
and I tried to like layman's terms, the
But
what
it didn't
was.
work, so, and then it just kind of got.
But we got it back. For the most part. I think it came back. I think my favorite takeaway was the fact that, you know, again, we can all be in a room, we can all have different ideas and share them. And I think people really like that, but they realize that even though we all have different focuses, we all have a common thread that runs through. And I think we kind of called that out as being community. We are a community and everybody sees that. So, and one member said to me that on Saturday, I just came with my own agenda. So well, so then every other person here. So perfect. So I thought it was great.
Actually,
Hi. I mean, I don't have a lot to add that hasn't already been said. I did Saturday morning and Sunday. But I think what Eric said really stuck out to me, that there was a lot of energy leaving on Saturday. that was really nice to feel. And I don't know if it was just the being in person or the mix of people that were there, but that was really nice. There was certainly energy on Sunday too, but hopefully that will carry forward to anything else that we do for people to spread the word.
Now, my question is, Brandy, where do I send all the Post-it notes? Want them? 'Cause I've got pages. We have a
Well, pick
lot of
out the really, pick
Huh?
out the really good ones, the ones that, really speak to you, and we may use some of them directly.
Okay, so someone has your mailing address, right? So when a box shows up. So, all right.
I'd like to know what Brandy thought of our assessment.
I listened through. I'm curious to see the notes from the meeting when you actually get some notes and sort of summarize what you learned from that. I'm pleased to hear that for the most part the exercises worked, and that you had a successful series of events.
So the three things that stuck out to me that were said, the main ideas that kind of kept coming over as we look at this division is that there's a real value for our natural resources and preserving those. There is a real value placed on our history and also and the things that make Enfield unique, that make us different than our surrounding communities. And there's some things that make us similar to them. There's things that make Enfield unique, and that's part of the vision. Is really celebrating those, and that people really do actually value places where community can gather. And there was some recognition, often sometimes I think that falls through the cracks when people start to piecemeal. Well, I don't play tennis and I don't do this and I don't do that. But when they were looking at the big picture, like that they really did enjoy the places that community can gather, and that there is some recognition that we don't all do the exact same activities. But those are the strongest themes that I saw come through. So definitely, celebrating our history, celebrating what makes sense of unique and the people. So, and really trying to making it a welcoming community for not just visitors to come to, but for the people who live here. So I
thought it was interesting to see that there were some people that had a pretty good grasp on the concept of vision for the future. And there were other people that were stuck on the idea of planning.
Yeah. It's very difficult.
And control and management. And,
Yeah.
and so that was, we didn't hit everybody. We didn't get everybody on the same page.
No, we didn't. And trying to get people to let go of not getting in the weeds of the nitty gritty, how is this going to happen? What's happened in the past? It's very difficult,
Yeah,
especially people that do that in their civic roles or in their daily lives. That's trying to go, we're taking this other view. It's actually quite difficult. And so I thought, and the different groups, the different sessions did it differently.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. So, which is cool. I think somebody actually from the one person said to me that she thought it was really interesting the synergy that was created with different groups. So mixing people up each time as best we could. As Maynard can attest to, not so easy, so but mixing people up and the different groups. But yeah, it's especially when folks show up with their own agendas and they want to talk about this specific thing, and that's not what we're doing here today. We're not talking about what the material that the sidewalks were made out of, and whenever they were put down, like that's so. This is what we're doing, and so it's
I also, I counted 2, and I'm hoping there were more seasonal residents that were participating.
There was
Other
definitely
than that.
one, and there was one last night.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
well.
there was one last
Edmund
night.
Jones, yep.
He wrote me a nice note with
Well,
But
pictures.
then there was two, because
Linda
Linda,
Sullivan,
yeah, she's
Is that,
also,
okay.
she was zooming from San Francisco.
Oh, excellent.
Wow.
Which is good. It's definitely, we, because we're a little bit later in the year than I had hoped maybe to get these going. We definitely know we've missed some of that, but that doesn't mean we can't get them in other ways. And so keeping that in mind. How do we get better attendance? And some of it is, I think, Bridget's right. There's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of, we've done this before, nothing comes of it. I mean, this is just what's going to happen. Or if you do it on this day because you did it here, eventually we just create things and then you show up or you don't, or someone asked me like, why didn't we have more business owners?
you can't force people to show up.
I mean, I'd love to hold everybody's hand, but, so it's just, but we can also continue to be mindful when we're creating next things. If we do focus groups, that we invite people personally, I think inviting the select board personally went a long way. Because we did they all came, they split up and each came, one person gave a different section. And so reaching out and so creating some strategic, words are escaping me, so, but a plan like that, really kind of thinking about making sure.
I think having that personal tie, like you said, helped too, because I had like, the Mascoma Lake Skating Association ladies, I personally sent it all to them and they were like, oh, I hadn't heard about it. And I know that if all of them, if not most of them showed up, and the Energy Commission was super excited. And I went to their meeting, so.
So we'll have to keep doing that, keep strategizing the way they continue. Anything else on about the visioning workshop that anyone want to share or?
Just one question. Did you take pictures of all of them that maybe share with people?
I took pictures of, I did, I know Ashley sent me some, I did not open that email. I took pictures, if anybody else took pictures, let's get all those together, maybe we can put them up in Google Docs, I can send that information out. I do have a bunch.
Yeah, I'm just saying how I gather the sticky information for like.
Yes, and I have literally all.
Yeah, no, I know you have
sticky
them
notes,
all.
But I did not photograph all of them.
Okay.
I think they started to get piled up and stuff before I got photographs of everything. I got great photos of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did not get photos of the Sunday night Zoom session though. But I guess we could get a screenshot of the portion of it that I recorded. The chunk in the middle that's missing. So, all right. Returning business, let's community-wide survey. So it has been, it's been partially launched.
What does that mean?
What does it mean it's been partially launched?
Partially.
Means we've told people that were at the workshops, and I do have the link up on the website. I have to send we have to send a QR code over to Barbara Jones to get that up. I can't add photos to the website. And we need to do again
Can we
more.
email the QR code to everybody here so we could send it out? to our
Yeah, so
own
we
list?
need to come up with a little bit of more of a campaign. We have a few people that have already filled it out, right, Brandy?
Yeah, I checked before the meeting. You were up to 13.
Wow.
All right.
1,887.
You're cruising.
I am.
Yep.
That's like just only a couple hours.
Well, it's evidence that the system is working. So this is good. There's been 13 responses. Nobody has sent any messages or that I'm aware of saying something isn't working. So I think we're at least comfortable that we're operational.
So I have sent the stuff to Elisa, who will put them up on our town social media.
Okay.
And the drop boxes and printed copies are out at, you probably saw one set
Right here at the front door.
right at the front door, Whitney Hall, town offices and the library. And we have a fourth one, we find a spot you want to put that at, but so we have 3 Dropbox locations with paper copies ready to go. And
Like at Mickey's or something like that. If we
Scoma Bank in the lobby.
in the bank in
I
the
think
lobby.
Mickey's is an interesting idea. You're gonna get a different group potentially there, or just even.
listserv,
mm,
you gonna do that one?
Yeah, so I just haven't done it yet. So we definitely get on this, but I'm wondering if that 4th box, if we rotate it around.
I can take one to, we're doing our small business Saturday holiday market on the 27th, so I can always bring some there and have the box.
Well, so we're hoping, talk to Brandy, we're hoping sooner than that to get them done.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
We're hoping before Thanksgiving, right, Brandy?
Ideally, I would like to call it on the 21st or so. If we have really slow response, we can carry on if we want to. But when you look at the schedule, you'll see that, we kind of need the the results sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a full court press this week. There's no reason for people to sit on it. I mean,
Right.
once they see it, let's go.
Can we maybe get one over to Proctor's?
Well, we've got 3 spots. We've got 1 other box that can go somewhere.
And we can leave paper copies anywhere
Yeah.
and just say to return them, here's the Dropbox as to return them.
You might put a date on when you do, like another.
Right.
November 20th.
So I gave paper copies to Jane Plumley she's gonna put them in all the boxes at the Lutheran church. So I don't attend church, so I can't hit any of the other ones.
I mean,
I'll lay on fire walking.
I don't know if we could do Wacolette.
I don't want to just leave copies
That's-
places.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
the hard part
it's fine to
is
do that in a
if there's
public
dogs.
spot, but we need to be more active. That's a really passive way. So what are some active ways that we can get this out? Like, take them to your neighbors, or if you, I think Brad, you were gonna spread the link to your neighborhood as a,
Neighborhood plus the association, the Lake Association, gets read a lot. The Facebook, they have a Facebook page as well, which I want to do.
and I'd rather send people to the electronic
Yeah.
copies versus the paper copies.
Yeah.
Paper copies are great to have for people like that, but we wanna, like the link that Rob did, but that way everything's into SurveyMonkey, because the paper copies have to then get inputted.
I'm happy to take care of the Facebook pages I can cover.
Okay, so
So
we need to send out the link to everybody, but I want,
So if I get the QR code, I can talk to the EDS and see if we can send it to the whole staff.
okay,
do we have any, we don't necessarily have a graphic, right, with the QR code? We just have the QR code and the info.
yeah,
And the Leaps logo, we can
and the
put that
links
with it.
logo.
Yep.
So we can make a graphic,
we can
like
make
an
it
easy
graphic.
Clip art,
shareable
something.
social media graphic.
Yeah, I can do a ping. With
I sent Rob 2 links. One of them is the social media link, and one of them is a straight URL link. I believe that I'm not a Facebook user, but I believe if you use the social media link, it will create a nice little visual on.
Like a meme.
You might want to experiment with that.
No, not that.
Okay. I'll find it. So, but I really, we need everybody on this team to be thinking, who can you actively reach out to? I mean, we can put some passive things around, and I don't mind leaving some paper copies in places, but how are we gonna actively go to people and say, have you done this yet?
Yeah.
What is your network in Enfield?
Schools, I think
I'd
it's a
say
big.
So-
I'm happy to hit up at least the school board representatives and the superintendent. who I
Okay,
would say is a,
and you can, and Eric, your connection to the schools is, okay,
Can, assuming, I mean, so just ask Harrison if he says, yeah, I have a problem with this, you know, staff, EDS.
okay.
We think,
That's it, fine.
Kate could help us with Friends of Mascoma, maybe. get-
Oh, I can do that
Yeah.
too.
Okay,
I'm on that team.
I can ask EBA if it would make it be appropriate to broadcast to the contact with the.
Yeah.
businesses.
Ooh, yeah.
We have a meeting tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, I mean, I think,
I've never done that. Somebody else
Okay.
would have to do it. Can we send all of us the
Yeah.
link
yeah.
to the survey so that we can pass
Yes,
that
I'm
link on?
gonna do that tonight. My computer is dying, so
Yeah.
I'm not.
Because our
gonna-
meeting is when, on Tuesday? right?
8:30
Tomorrow?
tomorrow.
Hold on.
I can do as soon as I go home tonight. I'll send all these and I'll see if, how the graphic works and whatnot. But yeah, 'cause the other thing to encourage, like, especially if they're a small business owner in Enfield,
Mhm.
they're a stakeholder.
Yeah.
So
course.
they don't have to live here and as things are set up. So it's not, sometimes things get confused that only people that have a mailing at like, or a residential mailing address here count, and that's not true.
And I think a big thing on social media, if people are gonna go that route, is to sit there and go through the people you have on your friends list and tag all of the people. Like
And I
Kate
saw-
did that for
Yeah.
this
for the-
weekend
for
event
the vision
too.
workshop.
Is there any control to prevent people from submitting more than one survey response?
Yes. Right, Brandy? You made.
Yes.
Yeah,
So both of those links are set up right now so that the survey can only be taken once from any device. So that should prevent repeat survey takers. If you did want to set up a like at the library or something, a computer that has the survey up, and you want to sort of set up like a kiosk, I can create a separate link that doesn't have that feature, that would allow multiple surveys from a device to be put in. Having done a lot of community surveys, the one thing I would say is that usually the only people dedicated to submitting more than one survey have a really, really specific and narrow reason for doing so, and it's really obvious that they've done it multiple times.
yeah, and my only thought is
Pickleball.
shared computers. Yeah, so the only reason that I would see that what we would run into are shared computers from like, but yeah. from
Within a
couples.
household.
Yeah. within a
Yeah.
household.
You could have somebody who is a business owner who would fill out the survey at their business and then come home and then think, okay, now I'm gonna fill it out as an individual. And there's no way to stop that. It may not be a bad thing, but it's not like they're gonna be submitting 6 or something.
Right.
Or if they have the problem with a 3-person in a household that want to submit, one could do it from one job, and one could do it from another job, one could do it from home, and they wouldn't have a conflict
Or just if they each have their own device.
if they have their own device.
Yeah.
So it's not dependent on it's a MAC address thing, or is it a IP address thing for a location, or what?
I think, having looked at the results, I think they run it off of IP address, but I'm not 100% sure on the technical answer to that question.
So would they get prevented from filling it out if they're duplicating whatever the device?
Yeah, it would not let you submit again.
So we should be prepared at least to field some questions from people that say, hey, it wouldn't let me submit my survey.
Well, I think
Help them.
everybody's got their own one of these, and you can use this to,
Yeah, same.
so that might help you,
Yeah, so that would be the response. Hey, try doing it on your cell phone if it didn't work from your home
Yep.
computer.
or your,
Who's running the library right now?
I was kind of wondering the same thing.
Kate, as far as I know, Kate Minchell, the assistant librarian. She's basically,
I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, I don't know how they're doing the library. Are people able to go in and hang out there? Or is it still by appointment only?
yeah, you can go in.
I think Kurt had a question.
Yeah, I'm just curious on how the post or the survey, how you can link to the survey where if you're not sitting at the computer, can you use your smartphone to scan a poster and it pops up and comes up?
Yeah.
Enfield House of Pizza, if you're sitting there waiting for your pizza, have little sign saying, while you wait, please fill out our survey, type of thing. And scan, scan here and type of thing. If it's only a 5, 10-minute scan survey, and even if the pizza's ready, they just go, was it finish up? Or it's already on their phone. And later.
Yeah, we could do like a little business sign that we could distribute with the
Yeah.
QR code.
I was
Put
just thinking
something together.
What about the auto parts store? There's a lot of people that you go to the auto parts. I know the Shaker Valley has. They have parts store
Yep.
in Downey. But they get a lot of people in and out. Everybody fixes it all. Not everybody.
I think we had the nice flyer for the sessions this weekend. I know we're on a bit of a time crunch. Is there a way to do something similar-ish or even maybe more simplistic, like in Canva, just to have the Enfield Leaps, the QR code, whatever, and
Yep.
then we can start slapping those around town too.
I have the little half sheet that I used for the front of the survey boxes. I can certainly share that over with you if you want.
Yeah,
that.
I liked some language that was on that. I forget what it said, but there was something on there that I liked. So can you send that?
Yeah, I did it in InDesign. I don't know if you can open an InDesign file, but I
I
can
can.
PDF it too. You can?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll send you the InDesign file and then you can just go with that.
I was computer from the co-op. They're not getting that.
Are you guys version compatible?
I have the latest version, so hopefully.
So you'll be good.
I don't know. Debbie made me update this morning, so I apparently have the newest, shiniest thing, and all my
I
memories are
don't
in
know
the
if I'm
wrong
not
place.
new, but I should be able to.
So yeah, I can. I'll get that over to you at the end of the meeting.
Great.
Flash it.
Yep. Yeah, so it's gonna be a big push, like, so in the next 2 weeks, just I'm taking the survey, taking the survey. So I have to find dinner to have her get the most people in.
No, I'm glad you did it. If we get over 2,000, that's pretty safe.
I thought over, I thought it was 2000.
Okay, fine.
2001, no. Pushing it. Okay, again, it's the more robust and the more people we can get to take it and the better, more information we will have. All right, on to the approved plan outline and template. So Brandy sent everybody, this is the master plan schedule. You will get that.
I got extra copies if you don't.
I'd like to.
I can put it up on the screen if people need it on the screen.
I think we all have copies.
Okay, that's
There's
good.
something else I got sent around today. Is that what you have, Rob? Rob, is that
So
part of what got sent around today?
Yeah, this was what.
You want a copy?
Yeah.
Okay, Brandy, I'm gonna walk us through.
okay. So starting with the schedule, I took your desired date of having a draft ready for community review and input at town meeting day, which I think I correctly surmised was March 8th, and worked backwards through your regular meeting schedule to figure out whether it would be possible to get to that March deadline. And it is just, is the answer. So staying on target and getting through these meetings and topics at each meeting. It's going to be not an easy schedule to keep. We don't have a lot of wiggle room, but it is possible. So the basic idea would be that starting with the next meeting on the 22nd, we would take a chapter a meeting. And there would be a first draft, committee would discuss, and then we go back into subcommittee and me working to revise while we churn forward with the full committee to the next topic in 2 weeks. And in doing that, I put them in the order, starting with economy and then transportation, housing, and land use. You guys may have a different thought about the order. I thought that this might be the easiest from a writing point of view, just in terms of the amount of information and complexity. So if you guys feel differently about the order, we can certainly change up that order, but the basic idea is one chapter, one topic for each meeting.
My only question, and maybe it's lighter lift, is on the November 22nd one. It's vision and economy. Is vision gonna be, so I'm on both of those, is really what I'm getting to. It's really what I'm working to. Just thinking it's a lot to try to cram in the next 2 weeks with both groups.
So we really do need vision first, because that needs to guide what follows after. But if there's a subcommittee that feels they're ready to go and wants to take the December 13th slot, I don't have any objection to rearranging, or other than the fact that we need vision first, and I think we need land use and implementation at the end. The economy, transportation, and housing ones, I'm open to reshuffling.
If you can't reshuffle, I
mean,
I can work on the economy, although I am gonna ask you, Brandy, are you really wedded to using the title economy rather than economic development? I'm trying to figure out why we're switching from what we've been titled and.
Have you been using economic development?
We have, and in the
Yeah.
handbook that we were given, that was one of the descriptive titles that they used, was economic.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I think I had it one way in one of these things and the other way in another one. So it can certainly be economic development. That's not a big deal.
So I guess what I'm saying is if you can't shuffle things around, then Bridget, I'll just pour into this and try not to burden you with it, but.
No, we can make it happen. I think Lindsay and I will be a little
Yeah,
lighter,
and
because it won't be
really-
so much info, like you and I are gonna have to sift.
Yeah, we have a lot of data. to pull.
We might not have to sift as much.
So
I hope.
by reading this, do we only need to write 1 to 3 sentences for the vision?
Well, ideally, the vision statement ends up being fairly concise. So it's not much, it's not much more than a paragraph, and, maybe be in the form of bullets or something like that. But there's more than just that statement. There's usually the statement and then more elaboration. So the statute speaks to guiding principles as part of the vision for your plan and for your implementation of your plan. So if you think of the vision statement as that sort of short thing, and then you would sort of elaborate out a little bit more in those guiding principles about how the town should go about getting to that vision a bit more. Have you done much looking at vision chapters from other plans? That can be a good, actually that's true for all the chapters. There's nothing wrong with sort of going out and doing a little review of other plans, seeing, so there you'll find a lot of variety, and then you'll find a lot of sameness too. And so it can be a good way to sort of start thinking through what you might want to see covered, or ways of organizing the information that you like. I'm not suggesting you go lift entire paragraphs necessarily, but very few people write a plan without referencing another plan in the process. That's a very typical thing, is to sort of do a bit of document review, shall we say, and get a sense of how others have addressed the topic and use that as a jumping off point. And so as you think through these, so we might want to switch the document I handed around that you got today. This sort of elaborates on that outline and talks on the schedule and talks a little bit through what the outline of the chapter might look like of each of these chapters, and then runs through sort of what the subcommittees might be doing, and to help put these chapters together. And I guess I would say that, I'm here I can write and research and do things to pull it all together. You have a lot of the raw information, or have done some initial research, and as much as you can help sort and prioritize that, or if you've in your committees you've had discussions and have some sense of direction, whether that's recommendations or future actions, goals, things like that. So basically, as much as you can take the work that you've done and get that to me in a form that I can easily digest it and integrate it and build upon it and put it all together into the plan. So I tried to ask some sorts of questions that I'm sure are things that you've thought about or talked about in the committees, and think about ways of organizing the information. So do you want to walk through those sort of on a chapter by chapter basis? I think that might make the most sense if the basic outline of the schedule works.
Yeah, why don't we start at least with maybe with one of them. We'll see if it starts to, if we're repeating ourselves, we don't have to do every single thing.
Every
but
one of them.
Let's at least let's pick one of them. How about we pick transportation?
Okay, so the basic outline, and there's slight variations from chapter to chapter, but the basic outline, and this is fairly common to a plan, is to have some inventory and assessment of what direction things are moving. So that trends idea. But we don't want to go crazy on that. A lot of plans, devote 90% of their content to inventorying what already exists, and talking about what used to exist and doesn't now. So we want to keep that focused in all these chapters. And that, I think I've mentioned it here in transportation, particularly because it's a pretty broad topic with potentially a lot of detailed information that you could include in inventory and trends. So we really want to focus in on those aspects and elements that are leading towards the direction you're wanting to go. So the known issues and problems you're trying to solve, if there are transportation issues that are, interfaced and connecting to development issues or environmental issues,
Randy,
the regional.
quick question on this. So you're right, there's a ton of inventory stuff, which we have, I will give you, but I'm not sure that we'll end up using it. But there is information in terms of projects that we're working on and a schedule of projects moving out into the future that I think would be interesting.
Yep, and that's probably what's showing up here under D and E in this outline. So your planned capital improvements. So I think you have a fairly robust capital planning and budgeting program going in Enfield. So I don't know how many years you're looking out, but I'm assuming it's at least 5 and maybe longer. I haven't actually pulled and looked at your capital improvement plan. So there's going to be that information and also sort of the useful information of sort of long-term investment and planning. So you know what the community will be doing. So if you're putting, away or budgeting for X amount for road repaving, kind of at what rate are you maintaining the infrastructure, and are you staying ahead ahead of that, or are you falling behind?
And
That type of thing.
How specific should we get? For example, we know generally what year a particular road is going to get repaved, and we know generally the state projects that are going to affect our state roads. That would be worth talking about, yes?
Yes. Some of these in the plan we can reference where you find more information. So if you've got that list of scheduled road projects, and this is something that we can do particularly well with the digital version of the document, is that we can allow people to sort of drill down in and connect to more detailed information if they're interested in learning more about a topic. So I think, yes, be specific in this and get to the specific information, but try to make those connections that relate. How does this link to broader community goals and plans? And then, the implementation of a master plan is largely focused, and I think you saw this in the Berlin example. They made a decision to basically entirely focus on implementation measures that the municipality could do or take the lead in doing, and that was a actual choice that they made in how they wanted to structure the plan. And so they focused very heavily on town budgeting questions, on regulatory things. So the elements that the municipality could control for or do something with. So that led to a much more specific implementation program in the end. So if that's the direction you want to go, then you really want to be focusing in here as where the town actually has the ability to take an action or to implement, or where you need to be sort of an active partner or advocate for the community. So in state transportation projects, the state's going to do them, but the town has a role in either trying to get the project or to help shape the project to benefit the community in the way that's most advantageous, things like that. So thinking through that side of things, and also thinking ahead into the further future. Your capital budgeting, particularly for transportation, will catch a certain number of years forward, but there are some longer term things you might want to think about, and that probably some degree the town is thinking about, whether that's stormwater and water quality as it relates to the town roads and maintenance practices, as I've mentioned here, or storm damage to town infrastructure. Is there discussion of needing to replace out undersized culverts, things like that?
Okay.
So just in terms of the overall organization of this chapter, so we've got the inventory and trends, and then what I will do from the survey results, and then can do this for each of the chapters, is basically come up with that residents' perspectives and priorities piece, and the exact form that that's going to take in the text, I don't really have a clear vision of yet. It might be some sidebar pieces, it might be some charts and graphs. You also, I think, have some other material from your prior engagement activities and things like this past weekend's effort. So we'll knit those things into the survey results piece as well. And then thinking ahead, so that we're really trying to focus the plan on the future. So after the point, you've looked, you've inventoried, you've assessed, what is it that you have found? What are the unmet needs? What do you see coming in the future? And then developing that plan of and implementation actions that we will work on going forward of how to address those unmet and future needs. So I'm envisioning that as the subcommittees, I'm not envisioning you writing complete pages of text that I would necessarily put into the plan. And if you want to, you can do that. It can be notes and bullets, and it doesn't have to be perfect prose or anything like that. I can take care of doing that. It's really helping shape what information goes in that you guys have talked about, have researched, and have determined is important.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I definitely think it would be beneficial if you go to Brandy's website, placesense.com, and look under her portfolio, and then take a look. Berlin, Vermont, or any of these, and just see a little bit of what, just to give yourself a shape of like, for me, that's one way that my brain works. And I kind of like to look and see how things have been done, and that kind of helps, like, oh, I know what that paragraph should look like, or, what kind of information is there. So for those that need a little bit more of a visual thinker, as well as town plans on here, but that might help. I just pulled up Berlin, and so, it's kind of might help for this.
I think also it would be helpful to go to the Lake Sunapee Regional Planning website, and they have links to some of the plans that they have worked on with towns that are our neighbors. And I'm not saying that those plans are necessarily wonderful documents, but it would give you, I think, a lot of insight to compare and contrast different plans. And again, having a local frame of reference, I think would be helpful rather than relying on towns that we may not be familiar with.
Another good source, the New Hampshire Planners Association gives out an annual Plan of the Year award. I think those plans are, I believe, listed on their website, and then the Northern New England chapter of the American Planning Association also gives out an annual Plan of the Year award, and that's Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So sometimes it's the New Hampshire winner gets 2 awards in a year, but sometimes it's the Vermont or Maine plan that gets the regional award. And so you can go look at some of those just to see different approaches to doing plans. And actually, if you want to expand beyond New England, most of the planning association chapters around the country actually give out annual awards like that. And so that's one of the things I often go looking at, are some of those plans that have been picked out as being innovative or interesting, or tackling a topic in a different way, and have been recognized for that.
Randy, could you send a couple of links to Rob and have him distribute that to us?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, so that's the list for transportation. That list has got, as I said, it's got some specific things there because you've got your capital improvement program and more organized way of doing regional and state level projects and long range planning for transportation. There's more regional coordination around transportation planning than you're going to find for the other topics, although there has been some recent efforts to do more regional planning activity around housing that you might reference as well. But you can see if we back up to the economy chapter, that is probably a little bit less dense in terms of what's available for information and what the municipality is probably currently doing in that arena. There may be more there to talk about in terms of where you want to go in the future, but the inventory pieces and will probably be less expansive than what we're going to end up with transportation and the housing, which is one of the reasons why I put that one first. But the same basic idea, inventory, what you've heard from community, what you've got available that you're doing now in this field, and then what's unmet and future need out there that you identified. When we look at the housing one, the additional item in there, I think that will be helpful to cover because this will tie into your implementation and is also important background for people to understand as housing is becoming an increasingly important topic, and the regulatory framework is shifting, and there's in some places it's becoming a fairly contentious topic because of that. So you've got a structure within which as a municipality you're operating for housing, and so there's a legal structure within which you can operate, and that I think there's some benefit to framing that in the plan a bit so that your recommendations and implementation when you get to land use make more sense. The inventory piece for housing, that there's a wealth of information at this point out there. There's obviously been several regional efforts to document the housing needs in the Upper Valley. So I assume that putting that piece together is not going to be a huge lift, that a lot of that data is sort of sitting pretty near the top of the pile at this point. So the land use chapter, that's got a lot of breadth and depth to it, and you have some choices. You're not doing a separate natural environment type of natural resources or environment chapter. So one way to deal with that is to integrate some of that information into the land use chapter, because obviously your land use policies and recommendations will be influenced by natural resource and environmental issues. You can't, plan for development that's not, the land is not capable of accommodating, or at least you shouldn't be. We discourage that in planning. So this this outline includes talking about natural constraints and hazards. And then I picked up from your conversation last time, the map you had done of the public and conserved lands. That's also, I think, a really good point of interest and reference to include in the plan. And a lot of this might not be much more than it's a map with some sidebar text, but really sort of setting the context for the land use recommendations that the plan will contain. The inventory for the land use chapter is really sort of an understanding of the community settlement patterns. So you're not necessarily doing individual neighborhood plans, but there will be some calling out of the different areas of town which have developed differently at different times for different reasons, and explaining that history, a little bit of that history, and describing the character of what's there is an important role for the plan. There might be some assessment of development trends. Some of that may get covered with the housing and economy, and if there's additional need, we can put some in here. That regulatory authority. No, actually, I think that's just a copy and a paste error from me. I didn't get rid of regulatory authority. Although actually we might need some little discussion of that in terms of zoning, but the text I did not change. Okay, and then the real meat of the plan you end up with is the future land use plan. So my recommendation is that we build to that, that probably we would need to have a separate subcommittee work session to talk through that at some point towards late December or early January, to really build up to that, because that's obviously the key piece that comes out of the master plan that then is the foundation of your zoning. So back at you guys. Can you do it?
Of course we
I
can.
Good try.
Lindsay can
The
get two counter
schedule,
responses, we can pull
the
this
schedule
off.
is very tight. And so I think, we'll have to see how it progresses. If you really want to hit that March timeline with a complete draft, we're going to have to hit all these timelines. If it's not going to happen and you don't have all the chapters ready by March, you could go forward with what you've got and be finishing up as it goes on. But aim for it, I guess is my recommendation.
Randy, how do you want us to get you the information? Do you want us to just email you once with everything, or do you want it piecemeal as we complete it?
It would be better to have less piecemeal emails, but if you have a chunk of something done and want to send it, that's fine. I guess it's a little more challenging for me if each of you as individuals are sending me items. If the committee can meet and consolidate your information, and then once you've done that and you've got it consolidated, send it on to me, that works a little bit better than me trying to keep track of multiple.
So a question for David and Lindsay, do you want to review this material that the subcommittee puts together, or do you just want to?
Just pass it on. I think a review is just going to slow the process down. And when we get, a whole, I think then we'll be able to react to it. And, I just want to say that the March deadline is aspirational and reinforce that. Clearly, we're not going to go over the plan at March meeting with the general public. It's, it's not appropriate to carry on that discussion in the middle of town meeting. It would shut us down.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would.
So, I think we aim for March, and I would rather do it well and have it come in April than do a slap shot job and make that what is essentially an artificial deadline.
I think we'll have be able to at town meeting, I'm imagining, is give an overview of what's there already and be able to present some of the next steps and, that kind of stuff too, so. Is there a question, Kurt?
Just more of a comment. Yeah, my understanding is it doesn't require it to be adopted at a town meeting.
Correct.
So if you give an overview and say, come to the adoption meeting in X number of months, then maybe you'll get a different crowd, but
Right,
it'll be just a master plan discussion.
right, yeah, so we have to be really careful too about that at town meeting because there are, trying to, again, reminding people that this is not for the town to adopt. And so that there is no vote. So we'll make sure, we'll need to make sure that there's
But the
an
planning board has to
informational.
approve.
The planning board has
The
to
planning board
adopt
has to adopt it, not the town. So I think there's a way you do an informational warrant.
Well, there are public hearings that are required, and it's the planning board's public hearing.
Right, I was talking about it at town meeting,
Oh.
like to get on the agenda.
Yeah, we'll get on the agenda with an update. I think. Eric,
So my comment on the schedule was going to be, that I think we need to add a formal presentation to the planning board to make sure the planning board is up to date before we go town meeting. And I agree, I love the schedule and the idea that it's aspirational, I think it's great. But I think that's the one piece that maybe missing.
Yeah, so
Bring it on
the
planning board.
schedule as I've laid it out doesn't have any of the public engagement things that you might want to do on it. So that's actually a next phase to think through how you would fit that into this schedule. This is really a schedule of your work sessions.
Yes.
So my recommendation is, I had one other question, Brandy. You had said subcommittee sessions with you, or is that that's it optional or only as needed, right?
It's as needed. I can say we're definitely going to need one for land use.
Okay.
If other subcommittees are meeting and want to get me to join in, we can see about scheduling that. Just get in touch with me and let me know when it is your meeting. And I don't know how you're if you guys have a formal subcommittee meeting thing, or if you're just sort of setting it up as your schedules allow. Or I actually don't know who's on what subcommittees either. So
Well, let's get you that information right now. I think each subcommittee is meeting on their own schedule. But the Economic Development Subcommittee is Maynard Southern and Bridget Libry. The Transportation Subcommittee is Brad Rich and Eric Russell. The Housing Subcommittee is myself, Lindsay Smith, and Ashley Wood. Land Use Subcommittee is David Fract and Celie Afiero. And Vision Subcommittee is myself, Lindsay Smith, and Bridget Leslie.
okay.
yeah, we also had a demographic subcommittee.
And we had a demographic subcommittee that was Phil Vernier and Dan Appelt, who were doing some of the, definitely doing the demographics.
Data.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
They did a
The
pretty
data mining,
deep
yes.
data
They
dive.
did a great.
Yeah,
deal.
we did. We also found out that we both took separate and independent approaches into the Department of Commerce for the new census data.
Uh-huh.
and working on a translation of where there is, what they define as being a place, and how the town of Enfield is set up, whether it's a true, what they call a metropolitan statistical area or some other kind of stuff, so that we can get to a mapping approach using Tableau or something, or whatever you might want to use, so that it's an accurate reflection of what's going on. And I'm interested in, the questions, the information and the questions that have been posed in this too, because at the same time, I just had open, I was looking at some data relative to the amount of time that certain revenue has been present in certain parts, so that we can see what the history, what perhaps if there's a financial history piece that may not necessarily be presented by itself, but it may become something as a descriptor for, you talk about how long this has been, or when, how large was it when, and so forth and so on. But this is really helping to put a focus on this, because we, data guys can bury you with data. And sometimes none of it makes any sense. Been there, done that, and saw the movie.
So I'm envisioning a document, and I have a little bit of a template that I can show you, but I don't have anything that's really what I would sort of consider a complete template yet. But I'm envisioning something that's sort of a digital magazine format. So it's going to be graphic, a lot of images, so maps, infographics, charts, tables. So we want to try to drive it in that direction as much as possible. So thinking about the information that you have so far gathered, or the discussions you've had, if there's ways to visualize that in a map or in a chart, or
Sure.
That's definitely something, a direction we want to go. And once again, I've got the abilities here to do that kind of work and get that all put up, but it's what, as subcommittee members and committee members, that you guys bring is sort of the knowledge of what your priorities and concerns are, and reflecting, having pulled those from the community in the conversations you've had, and then helping sort of decide what avenues we are going to go down, because yes, you can bury the whole thing in data. And I've seen many plans that do that. They generally don't win planning awards.
No, but if you make fancy covers, people will read it. That's
very nice cover.
Thank you very much. Yes, it has absolutely nothing inside of it, but I just wanted to share the cover. No, that's not true, but that's not true. But I will. The other thing I'll share with you is what we have, some different resources. Perhaps the largest of them is the one that's related to Equifax, and is Epsilon, which houses all the data for Equifax, and it's updated about every 6 weeks, and it integrates the census data, and that census data integration is almost done. So you get a single source and a number of expressions, and some ability to do some good report, or that which would build a better chart, so forth and so on. Like, you can take it down that way. Everything doesn't have to be sort of raw. I've been working with it for a lot of years. So we'll take a look at that.
So my thought and I'm just gonna put this out there to think through for next time, is looking, everybody, vision, we've got to come up with some, are we keeping an economic development is also in it? For everybody else, really kind of like, should be meeting, and try to dig down a little bit on what Brandy has presented here, to come up with some additional questions, but also if there is a public session that would make sense for you, we want to think through that, like a focus group, or like, again,
Well, some of these other ones can be tough to organize a focus group and get the information and put it in the plan before it.
sure. So that's where, and also sometimes, and we did talk, I think Brandy, you mentioned that a great way to use focus groups is actually to work like in draft revision, correct?
Mhm.
So like we
Yep.
get something written and then having a focus group, so it wouldn't necessarily be like, obviously economic development wouldn't have time before November 22nd, but after there's something there, what happens if they pull together a small focus group of 6 to 8 people?
I think that's gonna be very important for transportation.
Right,
Because there's a
so-
lot of strong opinions.
Right.
And
just so-
housing.
So start in housing, so we have to start to think about that too, and there's ways that they might be, that it would be after the holidays, it would be those things that happen in the new year, when we have something of substance to kind of lay down a little bit. But just kind of start to think about that, what that might look like for your group, and or if you want to have, and we can talk about that more, again, help to brainstorm ideas of who might you want to invite to it, as well as activities, because one of the things you don't want to do, hopefully one of the things that everyone who was involved this past weekend, is you don't want to just be like, here, what are your thoughts? You want to have some ways and a few tools to help people like talk about some stuff, or maybe, or maybe it is just like, I've given you this draft plan, and now we're going to sit down and talk about it. I'm not sure what it looks like in my head. I can't formulate that right now, but start to just to start to think it through of what would be helpful for you, probably after we've started to write a bit of an outline. Very, very first, very, very rough draft. So this is the like draft before the rough draft. The draft before the draft, the pre-rough draft. Is what we're aiming for.
So returning back to the question of schedule, do you want to switch up the order of economy, transportation,
Nope.
housing?
We'll leave it as it is. It's on paper now.
Okay.
Don't give us options. Don't give us options
Okay.
like that.
Well,
We need,
I
like,
mean,
marching-
I
Unless
try to
everyone's
be
like
flexible.
typically out of town.
I mean, I am out of town for the next few days, so that limits the
Okay.
time I have to meet with both
Well,
of you.
Concentrate on me.
I think
Concentrate on me.
But
we can be accommodating of economy, who has to go first and has the least amount of time to get through this first section. So you'll have more time to revise, however. So people at land use aren't going to have as much time to respond to the input from the meeting and make their changes. So pros and cons to being first.
And I'll just say, Bridget and Megan will concentrate on that.
I have to excuse myself. I have a phone call coming in that I have to take. So,
Thank you, Dan.
no, thanks to everybody else. This is really good. Good stuff we're doing.
See you next time.
Okay, so I think, is there any, I think that covers it for the plan outline template. Kind of covers subcommittee assignments as well, unless there's any other questions. I'm in a massive state of confusion.
I am.
Okay.
On the dates,
Mhm.
like well, I'm looking at land use, they had the 24th, but what was the other date you needed it by?
Okay, so the other date is actually, you want to have so on here, in here,
Oh,
you'll
okay.
see under land use, it says,
Yeah.
provide the consultant, the
I'm
subcommittee summary
Yeah.
by December 27th. Working through Christmas.
No problem. Christmas morning, get up and write a plan.
It'll be
Let
snowing.
me tell you, I've written
Three.
any number
Yeah,
of
that's
plans
what we need.
between Christmas and New Year's. It's the
do you
best
want
plan
to-
writing week there is.
It is, it's the best plan writing week there is. There's nothing.
No
going
one
on.
calls you, and you
Yeah.
had to have the work done by December 30th anyway, so it's all good.
For me, there's
Santa
nothing
Claus.
going on. Santa Claus. Yeah, but he's done and out of there by 6 a.m. on the 25th. Part's over. So, but that's.
Good.
Any additional public comment period? Any comments from the public? Kurt?
Two.
Okay.
Well, one of the ones you're doing, I collected over the years different information data for various projects that I was working on for myself, and a lot of it fits into planning stuff. Should I just send what I have into Rob and let him disperse it out
That would
to
be awesome.
whoever he thinks is most appropriate for?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And the other comment, I'm assuming that on the weekend, the Saturday sessions, there was no recording, videoing. Was that, would it have been helpful to have something like that? Or not?
Not necessarily, only because for that particular thing, we did record, well, Sunday, the Zoom session was mostly recorded. Somebody forgot to hit record and things, so, and it doesn't record the breakout rooms. So
Yeah,
the main reason it's not necessarily for those is that we had different groups going on. And I like to make sure that people are able to feel free to make comments. Those are really things like you get to show up and you get to have a conversation with people that are there, not necessarily have it be watched later on for others' consumption or criticism or whatever they're gonna do. with it. So,
There was just as much good interaction taking place during breaks
Yeah.
and in
Yeah.
between meetings as there was,
Right.
in the sessions themselves.
Yeah,
It
and
was-
so, yeah, unfortunately, with those kind of workshops, there's almost a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? No, yeah, I don't, they're not official meetings.
Yeah.
So we don't need to keep that public record like that. And when we all agree to, there's kind of like a group, we didn't really go over it, but a lot of times it's a group contract of confidentiality. in a way. Like, there wasn't any, everybody in that group could go out and be like, wow, but, Sealy said, but at the same time, so.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious if there was a workshop that would have been helpful if it was.
Yeah,
But sounds like that type of workshop, it doesn't work.
right, and even on the Zoom, I noticed, the reason I stopped recording is that I sent everybody else off. I logged in with Rob, may have changed your name. I don't know if it changed it back. I changed it to my name. I think you're okay. But when I sent everybody into the breakout room, it was still recording. I think it was just recording me sitting like by myself, and so that's when I stopped. Because I popped into somebody's room. I think I popped into yours, Bridget, and I was like, recording it started, and it shocked everyone. And so it didn't just automatically record in all of those breakout rooms. And so then I was like, I stopped the recording because I was wandering around my apartment for a minute. I was standing up, I was stretching, and then I forgot to start it. So, anyways, but I understand what you're asking, and not really in this kind of workshop.
Okay. Just another sort of commentary. I wasn't able to do the Saturday stuff with my work schedule, but I did watch the previous one at the Shaker Museum Zoom. We posted online. I think it was on. Number 3.
Zoning.
That was zoning.
Zoning was
Zoning,
number
okay.
3.
And one of the comments that sort of was coming to my mind as I was watching it was the development that's currently on, the lack of developments in certain structures, buildings or whatever, or businesses that are there. And how it would be nice if there was something else, some of those comments that were being made or that line of thoughts. And it was coming to me that it's not going to change until the property owner changes. Because a lot of the stuff that's currently there has been like that for a long time. And it's obviously the current owner is happy with what they have. So it's until there's a change of management or change of ownership. So it's a lot of like, it would be nice, but
Sure.
issues.
Well, that's the thing about the master plan. I mean, I
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate that, but this is vision, you know, that extends beyond the moment and trying to generate energy. It's kind of one of those things, like if everybody starts to mow their lawn and the one guy who doesn't, sometimes is motivated to mow their lawn, sometimes they don't, you know, but it's a little bit of, if everyone's starting to fix up their house and the extra materials, you know, it's kind of energy, we get energy. It creates energy, so, but yeah. Yeah, it's, or we change the zoning laws or whatever laws that say you have to,
But
we
then
make
they-
it more HOA.
But then the grandfathers, so.
Right, yeah.
So that's, see, it still gets back to,
Sure.
I like what I have, the towns can't tell me not to fix it, so.
It's a long range
Right, right,
process, you know, we're looking 10, 15, 20 years for this kind of change to happen. And when we took our little field trip to Bristol, one of the people mentioned that there was turnover of ownership in some of these larger downtown buildings. And that's when the change occurred.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, it happened over 10 years there.
And
At
change
least.
can occur with current people again, if we get that collective spark, you know, and there's a buy-in. And that buy-in is, you know, so it's a cheesy show, but if anybody likes HGTV, Hometown is a good one, but they did a whole like renovation of a small town down in Alabama, and they did a few things. They didn't obviously re-renovate the entire town, but they painted some murals, they painted doors, they just did these things, and it was very like it was very heartwarming of this change. So, but yeah, you're right. We can't. We're gonna find some definite areas that are.
Right,
folks
and-
or
but
people
that's like
are-
Dave was saying, that's the plan, it's a long-term vision.
Sure,
We're
sure.
looking 10 years out, so this is where we hope things go. We set up the regulations so that when that ownership changes,
Strong arm and-
then the
Shaking
zoning
hands.
regs say, this is what, and they want to tear it down, so well, it's fine, but this is what needs to go in place.
Right, right. So there's something, yeah, there's something plan in place. So it's just, you know, so. How do we just shake everybody down? All right, anything else? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
First up. All right, so we're adjourned. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you, everybody, for all your help this weekend. We'll get you that information, Bob. I'm gonna need you to send stuff out.
Yes.
Thank you, Brandy.
I was thinking we could spread them all out in here. maybe.
Yeah, that's
It's so
fine.
hard
I
because
think
I'm like, oh,
we
I'll
also
send it to
need
everybody,
the
and they're like,
survey.
That's so much of it.
Before we can
Here.
finalize, but yeah, no, I think we can just start talking stuff back.
Yeah.
Maybe get in
Town
person.
plans.
You remember around here at the Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe sometime that we can.
Okay. And some of it's gonna require Rob.
Yeah.
The budget thing, probably you.
Yeah, and we'll want to go back to some areas.
I am.
Yeah,
Yeah, to get updated.
to make sure that, you know, we can pull together what he's already given us, like, you know, planned improvements. And honestly, there's some ways to present those without even worrying about specifics, because he's, you know, he knows how many miles of road we have. He's got a plan of trying to do so many miles per year.
I gotta do some.
Gets us on an X year schedule.
Yeah.
And that's almost more important than which projects are planned.
Plan.
Yeah, because that's also